Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait maybe 2 or 3 more minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Kendall.
Yeah, sure, Kendall. Good morning.
All right, looks like we have critical mass, so we can go ahead and get started. So today we'll have our normal updates from 5G, DevOps, and release. And then we do have a couple updates from myself and Gail at the end, but we should still have time at the end of the hour if there is any other topics that people would like to discuss. So with that, I will pass it over to Suresh to get us started with 5G update.
Yeah, thanks, Kendall. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen. Couple of slides I want to bring up. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So on 5G SA, the test status update is like this. We have few features already finished testing on TeraVM setup, SUSI registration, GUTI registration, session establishment and release. All these are passed on TeraVM setup, and deregistration also is passed. Periodic registration update also is quite stable, and it's passed on TeraVM setup. And idle mode support, both signaling mode and data mode, both are passed. And as such, paging in our unit environments is passed. However, we didn't test it on TeraVM setup because today on TeraVM setup, we are blocked for availability of Ubuntu-based package. So probably sometime next week, we'll be able to clear this as well. And on the scale test front, as such, we have started testing with 12 GNBs and 100 UEs. The loop test, registration, establishment, release, and deregistration, this passed on the TeraVM setup. And on the real UE and real GNB environment, SUSI registration has a small issue. As such, that issue never occurred on any one of the simulation environments. Basically, as part of the registration request itself, we are hitting a service request. So as such, we have provided a patch. Most likely next week, we'll see the registration through in the real equipment setup as well. So this is the update on the 5G SA test status. Any questions on this?
Suresh, I have a question. Is this code on is from Magma 5G branch?
Yeah. As such, all these tests are run out of the code available in Magma 5G branch. And migration of code to Magma Master is in progress. However, all the pieces for 5G SA are not yet available. Probably early next week, we'll have the code base available on 5G SA. You'll have an announcement on the announcement channel on Slack.
Okay. And as we have not tested these on real equipment, so do you think it is right to merge on the master?
Yeah, the plan is to merge on master and test in parallel on the real equipment setup. Pretty much most of the features will be stable on the real equipment scenario as well. And as such, even though we have listed here TerraVM setup, in fact, we have tested all these features against NGAP tester of Radisys and also DS tester. Once we merge onto the master, we test with real equipment. Subsequently, if there are any minor issues, we'll fix them on the master branch itself directly, because we are also to make the code base available for partner engineering to try out, right?
And with this changes will be like, do we have like on off button for 5G in our orchestrator, or how happen?
Yeah, 5G enable disable through orchestrator is tried out, and the PR is now merged into the master. So as such, in our lab today, we are running tests with 5G enable disable both. So eventually, when you try the code out of master, you can try 5G enable disable through orchestrator. Yes.
And is it from the API or the NMS dashboard? Like
it is from it is from Swagger UI.
Okay, it's for the API. So if let's say we are enabling the 5G from the API, so it's for the entire orchestrator for all the networks. Am I right?
Say all the networks. Can you be a bit more elaborate?
Let's say I have created an account. Now I have to add network, right? So in the list we get Wi-Fi network, LTE network, Federation network. In there we will have a 5G network similar to that.
I will have to double check on that from orchestration team.
Okay. I got that. Thank you.
Arun, do you know how this is planned from orchestration point of view?
I'll have to double check that as well, Suresh. I can get back on that.
Sure.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, Shubham, I'll follow up and I'll either post a message on Slack when I get some more clarity or reach out to you.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
All right. Moving on to the features that are planned. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the features that are planned for August and September. Sorry. Of the negative features, negative scenarios that are tried out on the MVC features, a good number of cause values are there. We keep on adding those. So that is one thing we focused for the month of August and September. And also we are adding extensions to subscriber DB. Subscriber DB is equivalent of UDM in 5G architecture. So we are adding extensions there. And also UE initiated session modification and network initiated session modification. These are the two features for which we have internally raised proposals, and the community are reviewing the proposals. And by end of September, plan is to make all these features available for the community to try out. And on the scale test, by end of September, plan is to, I'm sorry, here is a typo. It is 600 UEs. Yeah, by end of September, plan is to stabilize the features against a scale of 600 UEs and 12 GNBs, one session per UE and one policy per UE. And the plan is to try out all these features in a loop: registration establishment, idle mode, periodic registration, session release, and deregistration. So when we try the scale test, it will be tried on a node with 4 cores and 4 GB RAM.
You are talking about the access gateway part, the
Yeah,
specs.
correct.
4 core and 4 GB RAM, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And another question, you said you will be running this loop. Do we have specific time period for like how long do we run this loop?
We'll incrementally go through the test runs. So say initially the plan is to go with 5 attaches per second, and until we reach a stability issue, we keep running. Okay. Could you recall, as part of 4G scale tests, Sudhi has presented, when they run these loops, after n number of those loop runs, they have observed stability issues. And there is no defined target as of now. However, eventually we'll arrive at those numbers. Say we have code instrumentation available to observe the memory build up on each of the daemons, and also at what point the system is hitting the stability issues. To monitor that, also we have instrumentation available from 4G. The same instrumentation we leverage as part of 5G SA as well. However, at this point in time, we don't have a defined target.
Okay. And 12 G node Bs are 4 GB RAM is enough for 12 G node Bs. Am I right?
Pretty much in the core network point of view, a G node B translates to us into a couple of data structures, nothing more.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah. Any more questions? All right. Kendall, that is the end of update on 5G SA.
Thank you, Suresh. Okay, so next we will have a DevOps update. Will that be from you, Tim?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. A few DevOps updates. It's going to be pretty short, as the past 2 weeks the Facebook team was either very busy with PSC or on PTO. So what we did is we finalized the H2 roadmap for DevOps, and yesterday we introduced it to the community. We asked the community to be part of it, and if they want to have tasks, they could reach out on Slack, and we could reroute them to the right task. The last 2 weeks, we had a few maintenance on the LT integration node in the Facebook lab. We had a problem there. It was quickly fixed by the DevOps team. We redesigned completely the automated release process. As Echo told you, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we intend to have a new cadence when we release, and that one can be very shorter than usual. So the release process has to be like bulletproof and super fast and automated. So we've been redesigning the whole process. We also identified a new set of jobs in order to test Magma installation, and especially the upgrade path and downgrade path. What is currently ongoing is the rewriting of all the jobs to the Linux Foundation Jenkins, especially the integration test. We're currently benchmarking which virtualization we're going to take on the VX host. So are we going to keep going with the classic VirtualBox that everyone is using locally, or are we going to use the libvirt one that apparently has better performances on already virtualized environment when you use nested virtualization, basically. We're also actively working on integrated TerraVM and Spirent to the Linux Foundation Jenkins, and I think we'll have a demo pretty soon during the DevOps meeting. The GitHub Action migration, so from SQL CI to GitHub Action, is almost done. We had a few bugs in the new GitHub Action jobs that were fixed last week. We are monitoring everything and making sure that everything is stable, and within a week, we can confidently shut down the SQL CI jobs. Obviously, the devs team helped the community and answered all the questions. And I said, we've been trying to improve the release process to make it smoother. That's pretty much it about the DevOps update. I'll pass it to Arun, who's going to give you some deployment updates.
Perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, folks. I have two brief updates to share. The first is around the release of the 1.6 bits as AMI images on AWS. So eCall did the honors yesterday. So now the newer version, the 1.6 version of CloudStrapper and Access Gateways are available from AWS Marketplace. So you should be able to go and deploy the last release version of Magma and 1.5.1, 1.5.2 are there as well. So you have all the newest versions of Magma available from AWS. Again, you could roll it onto any device that you already have from AWS, Outpost, Snowball, Snowcone, etc. Or you could, if you want to do test deployments, you could do in region as well. The second update I wanted to share was around the containerization efforts. I think in one of the previous meetings, I talked about our path. First is to actually containerize everything. The second is to deploy on a single node using Docker Compose. Third is image optimization, which is what we have in scope for Q3 with Kubernetes-based orchestration, Helm-based packaging, and Terraform-based deployment coming in Q4. So the first part of what we want to do, which is to have a build script that will containerize all AGW services as we have today, post them in a repository so that they can be individually deployed for development or test cases. That part is complete. So there is a PR that is currently under review. The PR number is 7007. I'll probably post it on the AGW containerization Slack for folks who are interested. So that has the build script that today creates all the container elements and pushes them into a repository of your choice. It could go to Docker Hub, or like what we do today in our dev environment, it pushes everything to AWS's ECR. And from there, you have the option of creating your own AGW, containerized AGW as it stands today. We're still working on the Docker Compose piece so that we can have a one-to-one mapping of the AGW as you know it today compared to a fully containerized AGW, but that process is still happening. So hopefully in the next few weeks, I can share that information as well when Docker Compose is complete. So I'll pause there to see if there are any questions or any clarifications I can provide.
So how are we deploying it right now? If let's say we download those images, do we have some sheet how to deploy it?
Are you talking about the AMIs, Shubham?
Not the AMIs, the containerized Docker
Sure.
images.
So, correct. Sure. So what we intend to provide as an immediate next step for at least development environments is to have a Docker Compose file that will deploy all these services in the same order as they are run today as systemd services. So that's the work that is currently ongoing. And that file is also available. You can take a look at it. Like I said, I'll post a link on the AGW containerization Slack channel. But yeah, that's still in progress. What we want to do is use Docker Compose, bring up these instances so that there is a one-to-one map, right? So if you run a bare metal systemd-based AGW today, you have a series of services that come up and that provide the AGW functionality. We want to provide the same feel on containerized AGW services as well as a first step. And then depending on scale profiles, depending on build sizes, we could either aggregate or disaggregate these applications as required. But again, first step for us is to share this with the community so that if you have a container-based test bed, you should be able to start picking up our images.
And in the normal deployment, we change the network interface. How are we doing in this case?
So I think I probably shared a slide sometime back. So the current philosophy, again, for the Docker Compose based deploy we do today is to have all the services available on the local network so that they can all talk to each other, with pipeline D having two networks. One is the local network so that it can talk to all the other Magma services. And the second is a host network so that it can talk to OVS that runs on the bare metal node. So effectively, we create for every AGW instance that we start up, there is one local network created for that AGW. And then pipeline D has a second interface that talks to OVS as well. So if you start a second AGW on the same host, for example, if I have a bigger host, it'll come on its own Docker network. But that said, this is the part where we'll have to aggregate or disaggregate once we go to Kubernetes, right? So right now, our objective is to at least containerize these instances and start observing some of the benefits that we can derive from it, either from the performance side or from the management side.
But as of now, we are using all these container as host network.
No, not like I said, pipeline D is one that is expected to be on the host network. The other instances, so any instance that needs to communicate with something that runs on the bare metal node will be on the host network. Everyone else is going to be on a local network. So that's and there are some internal dependencies as well, right? So today, some of the services in their configuration look for another service in a local host, because that's how our bare metal deployments work, because all of them run on the same host and there is only one instance of the AGW. So those are some of the assumptions that we are trying to identify and break down for the containerized instance, because we expect to run multiple instances of the AGW. So there could be one 4G AGW and one 5G AGW, as an example, running on the same physical gateway, right? So those are the dependencies that we are trying to break as part of Docker Compose.
Okay, thanks.
And for folks who are interested, there is a Slack channel for AGW containerization. So you can post your questions there as well. And we'd be happy to engage. So yeah, that's a Slack channel that you can reach out to us on. I'll pass it back to you, Tim.
I'll pass it back to you, Kendall.
All right. Thank you, guys. So next we'll have a release update from Echo.
Right. Thanks, Kendall, and hello, everyone. So I think the last time we met, I shared that we were thinking about revising our strategy for releases, which essentially meant we are moving away from the quarterly release cycle and adopting a faster release model. Unfortunately, that proposal wasn't quite ready yet, so I'm unable to share it with you today. So please pardon me. But I'll just share a couple of things since execution is already started. So as part of the move to a faster release model, one of the things we've adopted is a product backlog grooming session. So every 3 weeks, we have representatives of the different members of the XFN coming together to review our product backlog. And this gives us an in into exactly what the team should be working on a sprint by sprint basis. If you have access to ZenHub, if you access the top level Magma board, you realize that there is a pipeline called the product backlog, and that is how you can get a view into what the team is looking to prioritize for the coming sprints. The next thing I want to talk about is we now have a dedicated UX design person supporting the development for Magma. So as part of the product backlog grooming sessions, we have UX design backlog set considerations as well, where if we have features that have significant design requirements, we pass those features or specific workflows off to them so they can look into it before the engineering team takes them and then actually develops for them. The next thing is, I already mentioned sprints. So the team has already started sprinting. We expect to have 4 sprints this quarter, each lasting 3 weeks. The first one started on July 19th. It will end on August 5th. And the next one starts on August 9th, and so on and so forth. So we have all the 4 sprints done for the quarter. Last thing I wanted to share is, as part of this whole product backlog, design backlog, and the release management change, we are kind of trying to centralize intake for how we groom the backlog. And I know most of you already know this, but in GitHub, if you try to create an issue, right now, there are templates that allow you to create either an issue for a bug, an issue for a feature, or a proposal. These are really useful and help us to centralize what is required for the product. And we take this into the backlog grooming sessions to figure out how we should be executing across the sprints. So I know this is pretty much a live update, but it will all be part of the proposal that we'll share hopefully during the next call, so that we can discuss and figure out if there's additional feedback that we can incorporate into how we are thinking about executing. So those were the quick updates. Kendall, if you have any questions, I'll take them. All right, thank you. Back to you, Kendall.
Thanks, Echo. All right, so those are our normal updates that we have. So the next thing is something that I would like to address. So there are a couple private Slack channels, for example, the TSC and the code owners channels. To further our efforts of making things more open, we're actually going to create new public channels for those the TSC and the code owner channels that are currently private. We're going to create new ones since we can't convert them into public channels. So we will create new ones, and feel free to join those. And we will archive the other ones, so then we'll have those backlogs in case we ever need to go back and look at them. So that will be happening in the next 1 to 2 weeks. We'll put a note in the announcements channel once that's been completed. Gail, do you have anything to add on that? Did I miss anything?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay, cool. Then the last thing that we have on our agenda, Gail is going to brief everyone on the conformance program.
Thanks, Kendall. Can everyone see the slides okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome, thank you. So I'm presenting this data, but bear in mind, I'm not an attorney, so I will do my best at answering your questions. This is a presentation that was created by LF Legal Counsel for Magma, kind of introducing what a conformance program is and how it can be implemented and how it benefits Magma. And this is something our TAC and TSC, we're talking with them about implementing. It's something that's coming from the governing board. And this is something we also would like for you as a community to be involved in as much as you like. So as I move along, and I know I speak very quickly, so please let me know if I'm moving too fast, or if you have any questions. You can always find me on Slack or email, but I'll just start showing you the data here. Okay, so I'll give you an overview of it, what they are, kind of what the working group is, and kind of how we go from here to start creating one. So overall, we use like the name Magma or Magma Core Foundation and the logo to refer to the project, right? And so what a conformance program really does is allow for the technical community, so that's anyone on this call, that's the TAC, that's the TSC, to create a definition of what it means to conform to Magma, to be, whether that's being interoperable, or compatible with Magma itself in the basic code base. And the reason we do this is because as Magma grows and matures and people create different things that are interoperable with Magma, or different components they want to be compatible with Magma, we want a way to be able to say, for them to say, have like the Magma kind of badge on it or logo and say this is Magma compatible. Any questions so far? Cool. I don't see any unmute, so I'll keep going. And part of, so I'll send this, I can send this out to you guys as well, so you have it to be able to read the kind of text as well. But what this does is it allows, and this can be something where there's a technical, like you might have some automation that tests something. If it's purely like around a standard, someone can sign a term and condition. It can be whatever criteria or requirements the technical community sets that defines this. But there are different ways that we can approach it, and you as a community get to decide, or whoever joins the working group gets to decide what that looks like. That just would allow vendors or anyone to be able to participate, organizations to be able to use that Magma logo and Magma name on their products and services. So as technical contributors and part of the community, you are part of the TSC for Magma. And there will be a working group made of volunteers who will decide what this looks like. But essentially you'll be able to define what conformance means, whether that's, and that will be up to you based on how you decide it's best determined. You'll develop technical documentation, and then often have like some kind of testing suite. CNCF has some good examples of this. They have like the Kubernetes, certified Kubernetes program. And there is like automated testing you can undergo and that's part of the criteria that you have to pass it in order to be certified Kubernetes. And then our governing board for the foundation, which really sets our strategy, they'll vote on whether to authorize and launch the program. So we are still circulating this among you as technical community. The governing board is aware of it as well. We have not gotten to the point of having them vote on launching the program yet. We're still in the stage of working with all of you to determine what that looks like. Any questions on that? I know we didn't talk a whole lot about the governance model for Magma on this call. So if you have any questions, now you can ask them, or you can follow up with me offline and I can help explain a bit of that.
Hey, Gail, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned regarding the Kubernetes. So Kubernetes have two different programs, one for individual administrator and then the certified Kubernetes service providers. So here in Magma, you are talking about like service providers?
Yes. Yeah. And they're much bigger than we are. This can grow and expand. They're pretty big, so they had a need. Usually our projects start off with the conformance program being applicable to service providers, and then as they grow, they kind of tweak it to have maybe a secondary to apply to individual contributors, or but it's something that we can definitely add. It's not kind of a one and done scenario. It can grow and change.
So like similar, like let's take a scenario of Amazon and Google. They both are certified Kubernetes service provider. So similar to, let's say, some other companies come here and they provide Magma services. So if they are doing all the compliances defined by the Magma Foundation, then they will be certified Magma service provider or something like that.
Yeah, whatever the working group decides to call it, and then the governing board approves, it would be like, certified Magma or whatever you want to call it. That's what they would do. They would undergo whatever criteria you set, and then be able to we're certified. We have a certified Magma, whatever.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and then they can say like, this thing we've developed is certified Magma compatible.
The actual platform,
like whatever depending on what and this is really going to be up to the working group, depending on what criteria is set for what can use this the Magma or trademark or logo or be compatible or interoperable with Magma. So whatever someone develops, if they pass that criteria, then they're able to say that it's like certified Magma.
So with Kubernetes, they define like, if let's say they have a script, YAML script, it should work with every sort of standards. That's how they define it. If we are discussing about Magma, so there should be like this kind of access gateway or this kind of eNode. We should work with all these certified service provider, something like that.
Yeah, it's completely up to whoever volunteers for the working group to decide that criteria. That's how Kubernetes did theirs. So you're really able to decide what you want that to look like for the Magma Conformance program. And whenever we do the kickoff for that working group, we'll talk about what that looks like whether you want it to be, what criteria you want to set, what you want to have determine what can be called certified.
Hey, Shubham, let me jump in here and just offer a thought. The analogy with Kubernetes is only successful to a limited degree here because we are talking about the same kind of thing in spirit, but the nature of the products that you might see using it are a little bit different. Where Kubernetes is fundamentally a container OS and an orchestration system, and many of the things that they're describing as conformant are extensions to Kubernetes, a graphical kubectl or something like that people put on that would work with any version of Kubernetes, and not typically so much around the applications themselves, where Magma is fundamentally an application product. It's a core that may become part of a larger network deployment. And if you will, it's probably what we're talking about is probably more analogous to in the commercial space, the Intel Inside program that Intel put out for computer makers. We'd like to see products that contain Magma as part of a larger outcome and badge them with, powered by Magma or something like that is the spirit of what brought the conformance program to the table.
So I think you're saying, like, let's say I manufacture eNode Bs, and when I'm selling it, I can say, okay, these eNode Bs are Magma compatible, something like that.
Yeah, they may be Magma compatible, or in the case of eNode B, because we're talking with a number of radio providers about, literally bundling the gateway into the eNode B, you may even see a, powered by Magma logo attached to an eNode B or to a collection of eNode Bs.
Okay, sounds good.
In addition to the compatibility thing, I mean, that's a big part of it, but the real focus is ecosystem building more than just compatibility proof.
Right. So these are the things that we will be defining as a community.
Correct. I mean, how do we want to structure this? What do we want it to look like?
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry for jumping in on your talk, Gail.
No problem. Thank you, Phil. You since you're more technical than I am, you did a much better job at that part than I could, so I appreciate that. Okay. So if there's no more questions on that piece, we'll keep moving forward. So then we have like a working group, and it's optional, of course, but we definitely recommend it. And the working group is usually volunteers from the TSC, the TAC, from the different voting groups to create the definition and test suite. And we can also, on the LF side, help provide like a charter template that will define the role, scope, and responsibilities of the working group. And the purpose there is going to be just coordinating development and maintenance of the conformance program. So if you decide to make something conformant up to a specific version or specific release, if that changes, or as the project grows and matures, you might want to change that to keep up with current releases, and you'll be able to decide that as you move forward. Okay. I will leave that there. I'm not going to read it to you, but that is definitely the scope of the working group. We'll send this out to the TSC mailing list afterwards too, and we'll upload it to Slack. That way you have it available for reference. But this is kind of, some of these things will be included in the charter for the working group and helps determine what that working group will do in support of the conformance program. Any questions so far on the scope or the working group? Okay, I don't see anyone unmuting, so I'll keep going. So this being a conformance program for an open source technology and foundation, the key principles around it are we want it to be open and transparent. So that means that the mailing list will be public, Slack channels will be public, anything stored will be in a public forum so that it can be consumed by anyone and transparent. We'll want it to be neutral to ensure that we're not prioritizing the needs of a specific vendor or organization, and which is kind of one of our core tenets of open source. It's a technical merit, so ensuring that it is. We do have some people who are very familiar with Magma and with how other services or organizations would want to be compatible with to participate in this. Okay. I think that was someone mistakenly unmuting. And then having objectivity, of course, again, so we're not prioritizing anyone specific. And we want to make sure that we're not like, if we have a friend who's contributing something or wanting to be compatible with Magma, that we're able to be completely objective with that, which is all part of open source and you're all familiar with. There's usually a chairperson appointed that we vote on. So someone will have an election to help have a person who's the leader of it and can act as the liaison and help communicate between organizations for the foundation. That person will have, this is kind of the roles and responsibilities of the chairperson who is elected and what the decision-making process looks like. Generally, we want, just like in the TSC, lazy consensus to be the method, but when consensus can't be reached, we'll have guidelines for how to make a decision and how to hold a vote. Ultimately, the TSC and TAC will have the final decision-making authority, and then after that, the governing board will be the ones to vote after this is developed on whether or not to launch it as it is. And this is just the governance model portion of it, but you'll have this in writing for reference too. So from here, this is really up to the TSC and TAC to start deciding if you want to move forward with the conformance program. So far, the interest has been yes. So we will start, as we're circulating this information and educating the community about it, you'll start seeing communication about how to participate, how to become involved with it, how to support the effort. Any other questions on the conformance program, the working group, how it works, or how to get involved?
Yeah, so how do we sign up for this program?
So that's perfect. As we move forward, so we will create a mailing list and on groups.io for the conformance program. We'll send it out to everyone on the TSC mailing list and then put it in Slack and provide the link in the Etherpad for this meeting. And then in order to join, just subscribe to that mailing list and that will get you added to any communications.
Sounds good. So we will have a different meeting, Zoom meeting for this call, right?
Yeah, it'll be a separate working group, kind of a tiger team. That way people who are not involved don't have to necessarily be directly working on it. We will ask whoever the chairperson is to provide updates to the community just to ensure that everyone is informed and is aware of how to be engaged and what's happening there.
Okay.
Thank you. Those are good questions. Thank you, Shubham. Anyone else or anything else? Okay, awesome. Thank you, everyone. That's it for me, Kendall.
Thanks, Gail. Okay, so that actually takes us to the end of our agenda. We still have about 15 minutes left. If there's anything else that people would like to bring up to discuss.
I have a question for Echo. It's maybe not familiar to like everyone. With the 1.5.0 release, did we also release some 5G components? Do we know? I don't see Echo.
I think Echo may have had to drop early.
Shubham, I can answer that, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Suresh, please.
Yeah, as such, is your question related to 5G NSA or 5G SA?
5G SA.
Okay, 5G SA as such, no features are delivered as part of the release. However, a few code pieces were there available on master. But as such, in the package, you don't see even a single process or a single component that has a machine state available.
So do you know what were those packages later on removed from the pipeline?
That one, I think only Echo can answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Suresh.
Okay, anything else people would like to bring up?
Yeah, I have a question for Tim. Sorry, I'm saying too much. Tim, when we
No,
do
you're
CI, when we do CI testing, do we do tests on VirtualBox or libvirt, or both?
Hello. Right now we do on the Jenkins Freedom 5 Jenkins, we do libvirt. On the Circle CI, we do VirtualBox.
So whenever there is a PR, we do both of these tests.
No, the one on Circle CI only run on master, and we're currently changing that.
And the Circle CI when we do with VirtualBox.
Yes, because it's contacting bare metal nodes. It's not virtual.
Okay, and if let's say we want to do libvirt testing,
there is a flag to pass to the vagrant. You just do that dash provider libvirt. It's been removed from the latest release, but if you go back in time, like a month ago, you'll be able to do it.
okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, anything else? I'll take the silence as no. Okay, we'll just end a little bit early then. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Hendel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.